being here. We know you've got many choices to make every single day, and we are so very, very grateful that you choose to spend time with us. And we mean it. As we've got one more day left in this year of I don't even know how to describe it anymore. We will get through it together. Just a quick programming note. We'll have our regular live tomorrow morning, and there was some debate internally as to whether or not we were going to do a New Year's Eve show. But all the millennials all wimped out early on our mod team. They apparently don't have any game. All big talkers. So the Gen Xers decided, you know what? We'll let them sleep and we'll do our own thing. But anyway, no show tomorrow night. But we'll have a regular show tomorrow morning. So thank you all for being here. You know the drill. Tapping is clapping. Liking is loving. Sharing is caring. We appreciate that. There's a gifting goal today. If you do want to support the channel, best way to do so is through the various pay apps, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, all at Factsstillmatter. Check out the merch store. A lot of cool items in there. If you wouldn't mind heading on over there. It's called Facts HQ. There's also a link to a merch store that happens to be my son's, as a matter of fact. It says Tobias. It's the first link you'll see. And join our Discord. You also find the link to the Discord in the link tree. If for some reason you're having a difficult time getting the Discord to load, you can either copy the URL and put it in a browser or reach out to one of our amazing moderators after they kick me in the shins, and they can help you join the Discord as well. So thank you all for being here. We appreciate you all very, very much. A few things I wanted to discuss today. The MTG story, we talked before, right, about how I don't necessarily want to give MTG, any credit for her redemption tour, whatever the fuck she's doing. But the New York Times story, I think, provides some interesting context about where or how quickly their relationship soured. And of all things that it soured over, it was the president's mishandling and flat out obstruction of justice and corruption and cover up of the Jeffrey files. So we'll get into that. I want to start with, I thought this was an amazing story about the Kennedy Center. So in case you couldn't see it, these are the only things that's basically going to be left. We should add an extended engagement tour for Ted Nugent and Kid Rock, because everybody else is dropping like flies. No one should be surprised by that. I mean, the Kennedy Center used to be a pretty well. It was the Carnegie Hall of DC. You perform at the Kennedy Center and it becomes a big deal, but people are just like, this is disgusting. So quite a few cancellations that are noteworthy. The Christmas Eve Jazz Jam that's been there for years. Veteran jazz musician Chuck Red canceled his show. New Year's Eve concert featuring the jazz ensemble The Cookers withdrew from their scheduled New Year's Eve concert, citing the renaming controversy. Doug Verone and Dancers, a prominent dance company, canceled performances planned for April. Reports indicate that as many as 20 plus shows and engagements have been canceled or postponed at the Kennedy Center since earlier in the year amid ongoing controversy and artist opposition. Some artists and productions scheduled earlier in the year, including Rhiannon Giddens, Issa Rae, Lin-Manuel Miranda. Hamilton was supposed to do a redo, but they're going to do an all-white version. Don't worry. And others chose to disassociate or move their performances elsewhere following governance and programming shifts earlier in 2025. Partnerships like the American College Theater Festival were also suspended. Kennedy Center President Richard Grinnell criticized cancellations as politically motivated. You don't think putting the president's name on it isn't politically motivated? Okay. And has threatened legal action, including seeking damages from Chuck Red. Many cited concerns about politicization, integrity, or respect for the institution's legacy as reasons for pulling out. Democratic lawmakers are challenging the renaming under federal law, arguing only Congress can authorize such a change. And that's true. So I guess the question is, when a Democratic president takes back the Oval Office in 2028, should we just start renaming things? Should we just drive around DC and say, you know what? I'm going to rename that. We're going to rename this. We're going to rename the Lincoln Memorial. We're going to rename the Jefferson Memorial. We're going to rename the Smithsonian. Is that how we're going to play this now? It's like, exactly, everything should be named after Obama. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, it's such bullshit. My gosh, it is the ultimate. When you are in failing health, and when there are questions about your health, and there's questions about your mental capacity, and signs of cognitive decline, combine that with a malignant narcissist, and these are the kinds of things that you get. Like, we're just gonna make it the Trump Kennedy Center. Appoint himself the board. By the way, the bullshit narrative saying, well, people voted on it, they wanted it. No, the people that he put on the board of the Kennedy Center and then appointed himself like the president and chairperson, of course, they're going to rename it. Of course, people are going to vote to endorse it because that's how deeply down in the cult they are. Speaking of that, I wanted to share this with you guys because this is, to me, this is indicative of the cult behavior that we discuss. Now, we talk in terms here, right, of how oftentimes the right, in defense of they're constantly being called the cult, they want to say that Democrats are in a cult. Well, I get DNC and RNC fundraising emails. I've been doing it for a while, and I didn't even bother to check, but I saw this creator do this story on it, and I think it was really interesting. So I want people to know that this is the messaging from the DNC from a fundraising messaging perspective, okay? To all Democrats, please don't click away from this important message. We know the year is right around the corner. The new year is right around the corner, so we'll get straight to the point. We're asking you to contribute $7 to the DNC ahead of our end of quarter fundraising deadline. Republicans have already proven that they won't stand up to Trump's abuses of power, so we need to elect as many Democrats as possible who will. That work demands a strong, organized Democratic Party leading the way. All right, that's fine. That sounds like a good message, right? But, hold on. But the truth is, less than 1% of the people receiving these messages pitch in. We're counting on all Democrats who know how important this moment is and for Democrats to step up. And then the last one would be the contribute volunteer page, right? Pretty normal fundraising email, kick in $7, right? If you gave recently, right, we might have your information on file. We may or may not. Do you want to contribute? Do you want to volunteer? And this is how you can text to join. Pretty innocuous fundraising, pretty typical. On the other hand, this is what you get from the RNC. Authorized by GOP HQ. Congratulations. After reviewing your profile, MAGA leaders determined that you deserve a spot in Republican history. That's so great. So, after careful consideration, you've been selected for the Republican Living Legend Award. This is widely considered to be the highest honor in the entire MAGA movement, and we couldn't think of a more deserving winner than you. Nice, right? Hilarious. Well, then you get to the actual fundraising page. So $100 is selected, okay? This part right here, in all caps. Do you want Ilhan Omar removed from Congress? If your answer is yes, check this box to stop terrorists and sympathizers and make a monthly recurring donation today. Okay? So, do you want Ilhan? Yeah, I do. Count me in. That $100 donation or whatever amount that you select will be a monthly recurring donation. Oh, but it doesn't stop there. If you look down at the bottom, no men in women's sports. Check this box to help us ban men from women's sports and make this bonus donation to the GOP monthly and recurring. So two spots. So two spots, right? Here's your donation. Here's your rhetoric and your hate speech. Gullible people will then click yes, and that $100 donation will become recurring monthly. Oh, but if that's not bad enough, let's go after the trans community. Again, in all caps, check that box, and again, your $100 donation is recurring. So my friends on the right, listen, I know, if I were you, I would totally want to get Ilhan Omar out of Congress. Absolutely. And if I were you guys, I would certainly want to ban men from women's sports. You guys should, in fact, what I would do, since your president needs you, the RNC needs you. So what I would suggest is selecting the $3,300 donation, and then yes, you absolutely want Ilhan Omar out of Congress. And yes, you absolutely want to ban men from women's sports. Now, if that is not a fucking cult, this is again how it starts. Become a Republican living legend. Become a Republican living legend compared to, hey. Now, one could argue that perhaps you would like to see the Democratic messaging being stronger, but not with something like this. Not with something like this. But not a cult, right? no, nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. So if you want a little bit of fun, you can sign up for these mailers. You can sign up for the fundraising emails that you get from both the RNC and from the DNC. But here's the thing. There will be gullible MAGA voters who are struggling to make ends meet, who might live in the holler, right, in Eastern Kentucky, Western West Virginia, who don't have more than $50 to their name, and they'll sign up for that, and they'll see that hate speech, and they'll see that rhetoric, and they'll sign up, and they'll lose everything. And meanwhile, our president is bragging now again about the ballroom. Yeah. Yep. Bragging again about the ballroom. And not only that, but I'm gonna find this additional sound because his meeting with Bibi yesterday was absolutely disgusting. So here's this was a moment. This was a hot mic moment, apparently, that he was sitting around the buffet table at Mar-a-Lago, and this was caught on a hot mic, and he's talking to Bibi. Again, the president of the United States, really looking out for the American taxpayer, really concerned about affordability, really concerned about transparency, really concerned about helping American families make ends meet, really concerned about healthcare. But is he?
And they stopped. Do I get credit for it? No. They gave me. I did 8 of them. India. How about India and Pakistan? And then so I did 8 of them, and then I'll tell you the rest of it.
Begging, pleading. Why didn't I get the Nobel Peace Prize? Well, my guy, you are bombing. You're now taking out facilities on Venezuelan soil. You're thumping missiles into Nigeria. But nothing to see here, right? The war in Ukraine is not close to ending. You're siding with Russia. The Israeli-Gaza situation is exactly what you and Bibi wanted because Jared Kushner and your boy, Steve Witkoff, are in there negotiating real estate deals so they can literally pave it over and turn it into a metropolitan hub, which will then benefit who? Oh yeah, all of your rich donors. The same people that will attend, an evening of book burning at the Trump Kennedy Center in 2026. But nothing to see here, right? Totally fine. Totally fine. I know that our friends on the right really want to focus on the situation in Minnesota, and you can do that if you'd like. But here it is, you hypocrites. The problem is that this particular person, I'm not even going to give this person credibility as a journalist. I mean, going to this facility, taking video, they got millions of views when the facility was closed. But if you care so much about fraud, then talk to me about Trevor Milton, MAGA. Talk to me about Trevor Milton. Trevor Milton committed securities fraud. $676 million in restitution was erased because of a presidential pardon by the president. Talk to me about Ross Ulbricht, MAGA. Silk Road, $184 million in restitution erased, ripped off millions of people due to a presidential pardon. Talk to me about Todd and Julie Chrisley, tax fraud, bank fraud, $25 million in restitution erased. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about Jason Galanis. $85 million in restitution erased. Again, all pardons by the president. Talk to me about numerous others that have been pardoned because of fraud. So now if you want to have a serious conversation about fraud, then be objective. Lawrence Duran, another one, Erica, thank you. Then be objective. Be objective. How about the president himself? He's an adjudicated fraudster. But again, nothing to see here, right? If you want to continue to double down on your racism, go ahead. We know who you are, but don't tell us it's about fraud because you don't give a shit. You don't care about fraud. You see, for real, you're proving my point. You don't care about fraud. You're just in here to try to get attention. Nobody cares about you. You don't have anything good to say. But again, let's talk about that. Okay? If you want to have that conversation, if you truly, really want to have that conversation about fraud, then address those issues. Then why is the president pardoning fraudsters? Why is the president pardoning fraud? Hey, for real. Why is the president pardoning fraudsters? I bet you won't answer that question. There you go. Go ahead. We'll wait. If you care so much about fraud, why is the president pardoning fraudsters? Go ahead. Go ahead. We'll wait. Any comments from the cheap seats? Any at all? Didn't think so. Didn't think so. Didn't think so. Oh, what about his cope, right? See? You see what I mean? Thank you for proving my point. There you go again. Thank you for proving my point. So you can stop screaming about it. You can find something else to cry about. But we'll focus on the things that truly should matter, right? That the corruption that we see daily in front of us, the administration literally ripping off the American taxpayers, billions of dollars go to fund the rebuild in Gaza. You all don't care about fraud. You just need a distraction. Because again, but you know what, for real, you should go and check your mailbox or check your email for their RNC donation letter, because again, it's really, really important that you support the RNC. And I might suggest, because you would certainly want to ban Ilhan Omar from running for being in Congress, right? So check that box. You certainly don't want men and women's sports, right? So check that box too. Thanks for playing. Have a good day. Okay, so let's talk about the yeah, exactly, the scammers. Let's talk about the MTG article. In case you didn't know, like I said, I don't want to spend too much time with her. Just how what's interesting to me is what the final straw was. So in case you didn't know, a massive story in the New York Times about her breakup, so to speak. Major personnel, and this is again from the New York Times, major personal and political rift between Green and one of Trump's staunchest allies in Congress has publicly broken, describing her longtime loyalty as based on a belief that he was, quote, a man of the people, a belief she now says was naive and rooted in a toxic culture. Gee, you think? One of the big things that really stood out in this article to me was this one particular section. Green says the fight over releasing government files related to JE was the critical moment in her break with Trump. She framed her push for transparency as standing up for survivors and exposing powerful people who, quote, got away with it. In the interview, Green claims that when she raised the issue with Trump, he reacted angrily, telling her, quote, my friends will get hurt. Okay. So let's just play that out for a second, right? Let's just play that out for a second. My friends will get hurt. So you're saying, Mr. President, that you're more concerned about your friends getting hurt, which then means you obviously knew what was going on. You're more concerned about your friends getting hurt than the survivors of these crimes perpetrated by your friends? Really? Is that really where you want to go with this? Okay. In the interview, again, she claims that he reacted angrily when she brought up the Jeffrey files, and they haven't spoken since. My friends will get hurt. She sharply criticized Trump's personal values, saying he does not have any faith, using Trump's controversial remarks at conservative activist Charlie Kirk's memorial as evidence of that. So that story goes as this. She was speaking during this interview. She referenced a statement that the president made at Charlie's eulogy back in September. Quote, Charlie Kirk truly was a missionary with a noble spirit and a great, great purpose, Trump 79 said after taking the podium following remarks from Kirk's widow, Erica, in which she had forgave her husband's unaliver. Quote, he did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. The president then responded, quote, "That's where I disagree with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry, Erica, but now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I cannot stand my opponent." Yeah. Nothing to see there, though, right? Yeah, okay. That's cool. Great. Super. Green said her experiences, including encounters with Jeffrey survivors and her faith journey, have caused her to reassess her outlook, and she now sees parts of MAGA as toxic and not aligned with her values. Now, listen, I'm not, she's a snake, no doubt about it. She's a snake. I don't know if do you notice there's no response from the White House, though? So they're just going to try to slam her and call it petty and call it bullshit, but there's no response from the White House. Okay. Beyond Jeffrey, Green has diverged from Trump and GOP leadership on several issues, including criticism of U.S. foreign policy and Trump's meetings with international leaders, discomfort with the, quote, sexualization she perceives in MAGA culture. Where the fuck have you been? We've only been saying it forever. For example, around Mar-a-Lago and among some women associated with the movement. You think? You think? Really? Wow. Jeez. Okay. Trump responded to her criticism by withdrawing his support for her reelection, calling her a traitor on social media. Green has announced that she will resign from Congress as soon as they come back into session, which is next week. Green has expressed that the feud and resulting threats and intense public spotlight have taken a personal toll. And she said she no longer wants to endure a political environment she labels harmful, even at the cost of her own political career. That's unfortunate. A high-profile former loyalist publicly breaking with a dominant political figure. It's very rare in modern U.S. politics, but we've never seen anything like the current administration or the previous. Personal reflections on faith and morality. Green frames some of her criticism not merely as political disagreement, but moral, spiritual disillusionment. Shows how a decades-old criminal case continues to have major political repercussions, and public airing of party tensions shows that the Republican Party is in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. Look at all the trolls in here talking about the situation in Minneapolis. You guys don't care about fraud. None of you do. You don't care about fraud. You don't. You don't care about fraud. It's obvious to us. But you do you, boo. It's okay. So keep in mind, right, that she was an incredible party loyalist, voting with President Trump just about at every turn, right? In September, she participated in a House oversight hearing with Jeffrey survivors. She was moved by their accounts. She threatened to publicly identify alleged abusers connected to Jeffrey if government files were not released. She signed a discharge petition with other lawmakers, including some Democrats, intended to force the vote. We know what happened. According to Green's account in the New York Times Magazine, Trump reportedly called her and yelled at her on the speakerphone over her threats about the files, again saying, "My friends will get hurt." That's her claim. It's only her claim. She publicly framed her work on the Jeffrey files as standing up for survivors and exposing perceived elite impunity. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of, I don't know how else to, I think that kind of encapsulates the entire issue with the Republican Party, is that people within your party who should have known. I mean, listen, we know that there's been a big movement from women in the House in particular, right? Who are saying, this is ridiculous. You know, we don't get a seat at the table. We're diminished. And we're all like, you think? Where the fuck have you been? We've only been telling you this forever. And now you're finally realizing it yourself, which is leading to many wanting to resign. Elise Stefanik, I don't think Nancy Mace is going to run for re-election. Cynthia Lummis in the Senate. Numerous women across the spectrum in Republican politics. They don't have leadership seats. They don't have prominent voices on committees. At least that's been their claim. And we're like, gee, you think? You think? Hey, Johnny. I'm going to pin this. Johnny, you don't care about fraud, Johnny. You just want to have something to distract you from the fact that your president's on the list. You don't care about fraud, because if you cared about fraud, Why will you not address the pardons issued by the president of people who ripped families off? You don't care about fraud. So stop talking about it. You don't care. You're gullible. You thought the video that this journalist, Nick Shirley, made knocking on the back door of a daycare center that was closed because it wasn't open at the time that he was there. You're so gullible that you believe that. You're so gullible. And here's the difference between us and you, Johnny. If people are found guilty of fraud and there's an investigation with evidence and a jury rules that they committed fraud, then throw them in jail. Do you see how easy that is? But until you want to address the fact that the president is pardoning fraudsters, people who ripped off families to the tune of billions of dollars and immediately erased their restitution, restitution is a big word for you, having to pay that money back to people, until you're willing to address that, then you can go sit in the corner like a good boy. Good for you. Good for you. Good for you, Johnny. Everyone's dead. How are you today?
Hey, I just came up here with a matter of factly. In June, we had the single largest fraud bust in U.S. history at $14.6 billion. We arrested 324 people and more than doubled the leading fraud bust in the U.S. to date. The only reason people are talking about Minnesota is because the news cycle broke it on the 20th and the files were due on the 19th.
Of course. Of course. Of course.
Proud of you, man. Have a great day.
Thank you, too. See you later. You see, it's not that hard to kind of navigate through this shit. So if you, again, Johnny, maybe you can speak to your other trolls that are in here today. Maybe you can say, well, they're going to ask us about Trump pardoning all these fraudsters. They're going to ask us about the president committing fraud. They're going to ask us about Jared Kushner and the Trump. And how about the fraud? How about the fraud connected to Don Jr. selling memberships to this exclusive club in D.C. for $500,000 a pop? Are you okay with that too? Probably. Anyway, so this situation with MTG, I don't think is going anywhere. But she'll stay in the news as long as she can. She's going to try to stay relevant. Okay. I want to go to a couple of other things today. I'm a little bit all over the map today, but I just want to remind people of a couple of little things as we get into the show today. Largest oil reserve in the world is in Venezuela. One of the largest producers in Africa is Nigeria. And one of the largest undeveloped rare earth hubs on Earth is in Greenland. Okay? And don't forget, the Donbass, Eastern Ukraine, that part of the country that is, up for debate as to who gets it, also has a large vein of rare earth. So again, friends, follow the money. All right? Follow the money. Okay. I've got few things. We're going to cover some more detail on the Jeffrey stuff. There's all kinds of connections to Peter Thiel and investments into venture capital firms that he had a while back. This was during the time that Jeffrey was out on before he went back to jail and eventually took his life. Again, lots of people in the know in this entire thing. So I'm gonna listen to this. We're going to start with Bibi. So this is part of the seminar, or the press conference yesterday. And again, these two together are just, anyway, here you go.
It's been my honor. And the award that I was given was really surprising and very much appreciated.
Well, President Trump has broken so many conventions to the surprise of people, and then they figure out, oh, well, maybe, he was right after all. So we decided to break a convention too, or create a new one, and that is to award the Israel Prize, which in almost our 80 years, we've never awarded it to a non-Israeli, and we're going to award it this year to President Trump. This was announced formally over lunch.
MAGA, do you guys understand that Your president is so easily manipulated. All someone has to do is say nice things about him or give him another participation trophy, and he will do whatever anybody asks. We prove it every day. Don't forget, we can track the gifts that were given over his presidency so far, and then how tariffs were relaxed, or how access to chips. I mean, another participation trophy from one war criminal to another? Okay. But again, nothing to see here, right? Okay. Just want to make sure. All right. Moving on from that. Let me see if I can find. We're gonna spend some time with Bitch Boy, too, because this Congress will go down on the record as being the least productive in history, and it's not even close. Not even close. I covered that. Everybody keep tapping and sharing, please. If you want to support the channel, best way to do so is Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, all at Factsstillmatter. Okay, this was the introduction to the press of when Prime Minister Netanyahu, the war criminal, arrived in Mar-a-Lago, and here you go.
Look, he's a wartime prime minister. He's done a phenomenal job. He's taken Israel through a very dangerous period of trauma. Israel with other people might not exist right now, if you want to know the truth. That's a pretty big statement, but it's true. I feel that. You had the wrong prime minister. Israel right now would not exist.
Wow.
Just let her go.
Does the reconstruction of Gaza will begin even before Hamas is disarmed?
I think it's going to begin pretty soon, yeah.
Before Hamas
He's looking forward to it, so am I. Look, what a mess. What a mess it is. And it's been a mess for centuries, really. It's been a mess for a long time.
Give the Prime Minister
A pardon?
a pardon.
I think he will. How do you not? He's a wartime prime minister who's a hero. How do you not give a pardon?
Wow.
You know, I think it's a very hard thing not to do it. I spoke to the president, and it's on. I mean, he tells me it's on its way.
Mr.
You
President.
can't do better than that, right? Please. Look, he's a.
So as they both are tabulating how much money they're going to make when Gaza becomes, developed as a metropolitan hotspot on the Mediterranean with Trump-era properties and the Bibi Netanyahu Memorial G-side Remembrance Park. Yeah. Trump says Bibi has done a phenomenal job and claims, quote, Israel wouldn't exist without him. Okay. Okay. That's fine. Nothing to see here. Nothing at all. But that's, par for the course. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about Ukraine, because that's still in the news, right? So there's reporting. Well, first of all, let me play this for you, because this was the part of that. Again, I'm not even sure why the president even bothers having these moments public, because he needs the attention. So when he was discussing he was meeting with President Zelensky. This is in Mar-a-Lago, and they were talking about the status of the peace deal. Here you go.
Russia will have for any kind of reconstruction of Ukraine post an agreement?
I did. They're going to be helping. Russia's going to be helping. Russia wants to see Ukraine succeed.
Really?
Once it sounds a little strange, but I was explaining to the president, President Putin was very generous in his feeling toward Ukraine succeeding.
Really?
Including supplying energy, electricity, and other things at very low prices.
That's interesting, because there's reporting now from The Independent, this is from yesterday, Ukrainian POWs being systematically by Russia, says top commander. Prisoners of war are being systematically executed by Russian forces, according to one of Ukraine's most decorated soldiers. Major Ola Shiryaev, who was awarded the top national decoration of Hero of Ukraine for his leadership on the battlefield, told the Times that he often intercepts transmissions in which orders to unalive surrendering troops are given by Russian military leaders. Combat observers say evidence of alleged war crimes by Russian troops has grown in recent months. Moscow has intensified its attacks on Ukraine even as peace talks continue between the U.S. and European and Russian leaders. Footage taken by Russian soldiers or Ukrainian reconnaissance drones appear to show servicemen being lined up and taken out after they surrender. One clip filmed by a drone on the 19th of November near Pokrovsk allegedly show a soldier firing at 4 unarmed men with a machine gun as they lie face down. Then he shoots at another man attempting to flee. Claimed cases are also being investigated by Ukrainian prosecutors, as well as an alleged incident of a Ukrainian soldier with his hands tied behind him and being unalived and decapitated with a sword. Mr. Shiryaev, who commands the Ukrainian 225th Separate Assault Battalion, said, quote, "The number of executions is growing, and this is happening in all directions of the front line. For Russians, there are no red lines. In the wiretaps and radio communiques that we intercept, we routinely hear the military leadership giving orders to execute our servicemen who are trying to surrender. This practice has become a systematic one, I would say, in the last year and a half. They are demonstrating to the whole civilized world that they can do things with impunity, but also they are showing that they do not respect the rules of warfare and any international conventions that have been signed by countries, like the Geneva Convention, for example. But there are certain people on this app who feel like they have a prominent voice who say the Geneva Convention can get fucked. Cool. How do you feel about this, MAGA? If your family member of yours was captured as a prisoner of war, should they just be systematically executed? Okay. Russian forces have executed at least 147 Ukrainian prisoners of war since the start of the war in 2022, with 147 taking place this year, according to the Ukrainian Prosecution Service, reflecting the commander's observations. Yuri Belousov, who leads the War Crimes Department in the Ukrainian Prosecutor General's office, said, quote, "The upward trend is very clear, very obvious. Sadly, their number has been particularly on the rise this summer and autumn. This tells us that they are not isolated cases. They are happening across vast areas, and they have clear signs of being part of a policy. The UN has also recorded a rise in alleged Russian war crimes since mid-November, according to Danielle Bell, the head of the UN Human Rights Monitoring Mission in Ukraine. Prisoners of war are offered protection by international humanitarian law, especially the Third Geneva Convention, with execution being classified as a war crime. Russian President Putin has previously said that Ukrainian prisoners of war have, quote, always been treated strictly in line with international legal documents and international conventions by Russian forces. The revelations come as U.S. President Trump hailed crucial peace talks between the U.S. and Ukraine as terrific, but acknowledged thorny issues remain before a deal could be achieved over the war with Russia. So now you heard that story, and then listen to this again.
What responsibility Russia will have for any kind of reconstruction of Ukraine post an agreement?
I did. They're going to be helping. Russia's going to be helping. Russia wants to see Ukraine succeed.
Really?
Once it sounds a little strange, but I was explaining to the president, President Putin was very generous in his feeling toward Ukraine succeeding, including supplying energy, electricity, and other things at very low prices.
Totally fine, right? Nothing to see here. Yeah, and then there was this other little moment about how they said that there's some thorny issues that still remain. Okay, we'll talk about that in just a second. Yeah, that totally tracks. Yeah, we're committing war crimes. Yep, you're supporting that, but here you go, some of that same presser.
Ukraine security guarantees. What number are we at right now?
Well, I think you can say 95%, but I don't like to say percentages. I just think we're doing very well. We could be very close. There are one or two very thorny issues, very tough issues, but I think we're doing very well. We made a lot of progress today, but really we've made it over the last month. This is not a one-day process deal. This is very complicated stuff, but I think when the president says 95, I think, could be close to 95%.
Okay. couple of thorny issues. Where is the press? Why are they not asking him about that story? Yep, that's a problem. Okay, so I want to get into this as we talk about the Marjorie Taylor Greene side of it, and we talk about destruction with the Republican caucus. Nicole Wallace did a really interesting piece on how the cracks are forming in the coalition. I will play this for you.
Do and say whatever he wanted. He could cross any boundary of normal considered behavior in our politics or public life and not lose any support from his political backers. But we're starting to see that erode. We're starting to see the limits of his impunity with his most ardent voters and supporters. Some of them have started to very publicly draw lines in the sand. Here's what podcaster Joe Rogan, who helped catapult Donald Trump back to the White House, and comedian Shane Gillis had to say about Donald Trump's response to the horrific death of Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle.
There's no justification for what he did that makes any sense in a compassionate society. It's no different than people that were celebrating when Charlie Kirk got shot.
That's what. That's the thing that bothers me.
It's the same kind of thing.
Bro, it'd be like if Obama tweeted. Yeah, rest in piss.
Imagine. Oh my God, imagine if Obama tweeted, something about someone, after they died in this way, that this person was a deranged, that person that hated Obama, and he wrote Obama like all caps. It just shows you how crazy it is the way Trump thinks and talks.
Well, yeah, and that Obama would never do that because he's a normal person. The important part of this, as infuriating as it is to watch, is that Donald Trump is ending the first year of his 4-year term with very public cracks in the very coalition that thrust him back to the presidency. There is, most notably, former Trump acolyte Marjorie Taylor Greene now leaving Congress as a sharp and public vocal critic of Donald Trump's. Case in point, in a new profile in the New York Times Magazine that we told you about last hour, here's how reporter Robert Draper reports on her split from Trump. Quote, she continued to be faithful to Trump's campaign promises. If anything, she said, her sin was to have regarded them as more than slogans. That's what I'm guilty of, she told me. That's what made me, in the president's words, a traitor, which was truly believing in making America great again, which I perceived to be America first. These might not be splits that Trump can try to message his way out of either, because here's how Americans feel right now about his refusal or failure to deliver on those campaign promises that Marjorie Taylor Greene talks about. On the economy, once Donald Trump's strongest issue, and certainly the thing that he torqued and perverted to, again, return to the White House. A new poll from NPR, PBS News, and Marist shows that just 36% of all Americans approve of Donald Trump's handling of the economy. That is his worst mark in the 6 years that Marist has been asking this question.
Tells you a lot, right? I mean, you lose Joe Rogan and you lose others, although you haven't technically lost Joe Rogan. You haven't technically lost him, but you've lost him enough where there are cracks forming. Hang on a second. All right. Let me see here. All right. Want to go into read one thing from True Social because I want to address this. And this is going to, all of you MAGA simps that are in here today, you guys are going to lose your mind when I say this to you. But buckle up because I'm here to say it. By the way, if you haven't had a good look, at True Social lately, that's because it would just be one ad. So this was posted a few days ago, and I want to address it. This is what the president had to say about crime.
Crime in the U.S. is at its lowest levels on record. Much of that is attributable to the most successful southern border operation in history. Also, there are more people working in the U.S. today than ever before.
So let's talk about crime rates. Crime rates have been precipitously falling for a long time, right? The trend line just continues. Is crime down? It is, yes, but it's been on the decline. But here's the thing about this. You ready, MAGA? Republicans and Donald Trump defund the police. And you don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to take my word for it. All you need to do is go look at the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Funding for local law enforcement that relies on grants in many cases from the federal government. Those programs were eliminated. The Republican Party, Donald Trump's budget defunds the police. Funny how that is. Let's go through it. Federal level increases DHS significantly, no doubt about it. National law enforcement organizations like the National Fraternal Order of Police publicly back legislation praising provisions that benefit officers, for example, tax breaks and overtimes. But grants and programs that support or complement policing efforts such as training, training, wellness programs, community safety partnerships, mental health screenings, et cetera, face cuts or restructuring, which local law enforcement leaders have criticized as undermining public safety gains. There are reports that certain local and state level funding for public safety related initiatives was reduced or reallocated, which some police officials argued hampered crime prevention and training efforts. Local and state level indirect impacts like cuts to justice grants, prevention programs, research funding, etc., reduce the resources available to support policing, even if core police budgets were not directly slashed across the board. So shocker. Republicans defund the police. Wow. That's amazing. Who knew? Who knew? Hang on, guys, 1 second. Sorry, dealing with a little drama. Okay. You guys probably didn't know that, did you? Your party of law and order, you're cutting police budgets. You're defunding the police. It's in your budget. It's in your budget. Sorry. Sorry to tell you that. Sorry. Part of Doge. Part of Doge cuts. You can read it. You can go pull up the OBBA. Pull it up. What went up? Border and immigration enforcement, large multi-year increases for ICE, for Border Patrol, detention capacity, deportation operations, and surveillance technology. Bureau of Prisons, billions of dollars allocated for staffing shortages, prison infrastructure, and officer retention. Officer-focused benefits, overtime, tax exemptions, and benefit protections for federal officers. And federal task force continue expanding funding for drug enforcement, human trafficking, and organized crimes. What went down and disappeared, again, from the same bill, the OBBA, DOJ grant programs that reduced and or eliminated, including community-oriented policing services or COPS-style grants, violence prevention and intervention grants, mental health co-responder programs, officer wellness, suicide prevention and training funds, data-driven policing, recidivism reduction, community safety pilots, lost funding. Some federal dollars that states used flexibly for policing support were capped or redirected. Many departments rely on these federal grants to fund officers, to fund training for specialized units. Losing a grant will mean fewer officers hired, training cutbacks, specialized programs, for example, gang units, mental health response teams. Those were all shut down. Smaller and rural departments were hit hardest because they lack replacement funding. Core police budgets were not slashed, but capacity shrank due to the elimination of these programs. What do you know? What do you know? So you don't care about fraud. That's obvious. You don't care about corruption. That's obvious. You don't care about law and order. That's obvious too. I don't care if you believe me. You don't have to. Just look it up yourself. The bill increased in law enforcement funding. If you mean that that federal agencies gained funding, they did. Border and immigration enforcement expanded, they did. Officer benefits were strengthened, they were. But local police lost federal grants. Prevention, training, and support programs were cut or reduced, and departments felt real operational strain. In fact, many couldn't hire people back. Amazing. See, this is the thing about you guys. Fraud in Minnesota is out of control. You can have that conversation when you can answer this question. Amazing. Tell me how it is then, if you're so concerned about fraud, why is the president pardoning fraudsters? Why? Why is the president pardoning people who ripped off millions of people to the tune of billions of dollars? Why? So if you want to have that conversation, we will, but you answer that question first, and you won't. Got it. Okay. All right. So hardest hit in dollars. This is so community violence intervention. You'll hear me use the term CVI. The largest concentration of federal community violence intervention grants, again, money's cut in the OBBA because Republicans defund the police, were in major metros like New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Washington, Baltimore, and those are explicitly named among places impacted when the DOJ terminated CVI grants, defunding the police. Reuters notes that some southern cities were more reliant on federal CVI grants because state support was limited. Shocker. Memphis, Selma, Baton Rouge, for example. The Marshall Project gives concrete examples of local programs losing funding suddenly in Baton Rouge and profiles impacts in Louisiana, including in Shreveport. They lost victim support community activist groups. Once again, this, good call, Gregory. Fraud, pardons are out of control. The states with the highest rates of crime, we know that. They're red states. We know that some of the cities in Louisiana in particular are some of the highest crime areas, and local law enforcement funding was cut because Republicans defunded the police. Separate from DOJ crime grants, in late 2025, reports describe attempts to withhold and or reduce DHS Homeland Security and disaster-related grant funding from certain states, with judges ordering restoration. States mentioned include, shocker, New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, Washington, among others. Threats from the DHS that we're going to cut some of your funding. New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Washington State. What do those states have in common? Got it. This matters because those grants often fund counterterrorism, emergency response, and major city police preparedness, even if they aren't police department budgets. If you want, if you want to have this conversation about who prioritizes law enforcement, then let's have it. Law enforcement is not armed Gestapo jackboot-wearing pussy-ass bitch thugs that are in ICE, separating families and arresting American citizens. That's not law enforcement. That's Gestapo bullshit. That's authoritarian fascist rule over the citizenry, okay? Law enforcement happens locally. You don't care because in this bill that you guys brag about all the fucking time, you're defunding police. You're cutting federal grant programs. You're impacting officers that do their job on the street. So you can miss me with your bullshit. So the things that you can't talk about, you can't talk about Trump era and Republican policies being better for the economy because they aren't. You can't talk about protecting the Constitution because you don't give a shit about the Constitution. You can't talk about protecting women's rights, your claim about men's and women's sports. You don't give a fuck about women. And you certainly can't talk about law enforcement because you elected a 34-time felon. You supported pardoning insurrectionist traitors from January 6th. And now you're bragging about how this administration cares about law and order, and you are literally voting to defund the police. So the DNC, Democratic messaging, I would like a bumper sticker that says, Republicans defund the police. And put it on every fucking car. Republicans defund the police. Republicans defund the police. I know that's going to be a hard pill to swallow. I realize that. But the truth hurts. Sorry to say. Okay. Yeah, again, MAGA, a couple of names. Jason Galanis, $84 million in fraud. Restitution was erased because of Donald Trump. The Chrisleys, again, tax fraud, bank fraud, ripping off some of their employees, $22 million. We've got all kinds of people doing all kinds of bad things when it comes to fraud, including our president, Ross Ulbricht, $184 million in restitution erased. You know, just a few names. And Trevor Milton, securities and wire fraud, $676 million erased. Nothing to see here, though, right? Nothing to see here. Yeah, it's fine. Okay, good. All right, so a lot of this has to do with the ability, and we've talked about this before. Excuse me. We've talked about this before. The ability for the Trump campaign at the time and Republican politics to be able to just distract their voters enough, and I will say it, their voters are not the smartest bulbs on the tree. They're really not, because they were convinced of something that was never going to happen. Project 2025, case in point. Okay, so we know, we've always known, those of us that are willing to pay attention, that Project 2025 was always the plan, always the plan. And the Republican voters, because Trump told them that he wasn't using Project 2025, and I don't know anything about it. I don't know what it is. There's some bad parts in it. There's some good parts in it. All the fucking lines. Well, do you still want to hold out that hope? Because there's a website, there's a Project 2025 tracker, and we can go through the list of things that they're doing, and it's checking every fucking box. It's the consolidation of power to the executive. It's the elimination of three-letter agencies. It's the consolidation of the media, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's all there. It's all right in front of you. You don't want to believe it. So this is kind of a little report that I just like the way they talked about it. Here you go.
2025, and then immediately hire its author or main author to run one of the most important functions of his government, how it's managed and budgeted.
I mean, because it was incredibly unpopular during the campaign trail, and there was polling that showed that, and that voters weren't necessarily aligned with this. And so even Susie Wiles at the time and Chris LaCivita,
the chief of staff,
the chief of staff, one of his campaign managers, said the demise of Project 2025 could not come soon enough, and people associated with it should not claim to be associated with the campaign. Of course, that was false at the time. That was not true. And more than just Russell Vogt, a number of other authors of Project 2025 work inside of the government, including at various departments.
Right. What I'm getting at is was it conscious gaslighting of the public?
Yes.
Like, or did they actually not want anything to do with Project 2025?
It was conscious gaslighting of the
Definitely
public.
conscious gaslighting.
Definitely conscious
I took
gaslighting.
a vote around the panel.
I mean, Project 2025 also created an entire list of some 10,000 people that were going to be Trump loyalists that could then staff the government and be across the government and do exactly what the president wants.
So they're talking to you, MAGA. they're talking to you. So many of you still believe that? You still believe that Project 2025 was never a thing? You still believe that? Really? Schedule F? Exactly. Tommy, exactly. You know, getting rid of civil servants? You know, I mean, it's by the fucking book. You aren't willing to see it, though, are you? It's conscious gaslighting. Just like he told you that he was going to lower your prices. Just like he told you he was going to end inflation. Just like he told you there's going to be no new wars. Meanwhile, we're just bombing Nigeria. And now we're doing land strikes in Venezuela. It's kind of exactly, Blue. It's not that you don't care because it's kind of what you want. But it's weird, right? It's so weird that you support defunding the police. Thank you, JB. That's cool. Check that thing out. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. It's so weird to me that all the things that you claim you wanted, affordability, end of inflation, no new wars, and here you are. Here you are. And now you need a distraction, so you're going to what? Pivot to something that happened in Minnesota? Look, I'll say this to you, and this is why your bullshit arguments don't work. People who truly believe in law and order, right? Not people who support defunding the police, but people who, thank you, that's cool. Thank you. People who truly believe in law and order, right? If there are examples of fraud, and by the way, this has been investigated for a long time, and I think it was everybody's dad who said earlier, it's just a coincidence that this investigation happened the day after the Epstein files were released. Shocker. Those of us who truly care about law and order would like anybody who's committed a crime to be investigated. Anybody. Allow them to have their due process, allow them to have their day in court, and if they're found guilty, throw them in fucking jail. You see how easy that is? See, the thing is, the difference between us and you guys is that we don't worship our politicians. They work for us. We don't hold them in high regard. And I think this is a question for all of us. Why do we expect our politicians to function at a higher standard? Why is that? Don't we want humans? So if we are encouraging more people to run for office, then we're going to have to accept good, bad, and indifferent, right? We're going to have to accept the fact that people are human. People make mistakes, right? I don't want perfection. I want honesty. I want transparency. If you've done something in your past that you're not proud of, then talk about it. Be honest with people. That's what voters want. I know. Shirley cut the vid and MAGA's pissing themselves about it. I know. I talked about that too, and Jay did really good coverage on that. But that's the reality, right? I mean, that's the reality. You don't care about any of this shit. You just need a distraction. Don't you get it? And you can sit in your spaces, and I can see the comments, people chirping. None of us give a fuck. If there's fucking crimes, then investigate it. Throw them in fucking jail. Same way we approach everything. Same way we're not defending people. We're calling it out. The president of the United States being called out in his conversation with MTG, he's worried about his friends getting hurt. His friends, not the survivors, not the victims, not people that were actually harmed by these fucking predators. The president of the United States is more concerned about them? Really? But if you need to focus on fraud in Minnesota, go ahead. If you want to be gullible enough to get this email, you know, if you're going to be this gullible, where is it? If you want to be this gullible, if you remember the RNC, you're going to get this email, this fundraising email in the mail where you can donate $100 or whatever you amount. And then this question is, do you want Ilhan Omar removed from Congress? And you're not going to read past that. You're just going to say, do I want? Absolutely. You're going to click yes. And that $100 will be a monthly donation. Or what's worse is you might scroll past the rest here, right? If you scroll down here, this would be another way to satisfy your hatred towards people, right? No men and women's sports, right? If you want to block all men and women's sports, then check this box here and make your $100 donation monthly recurring. Right? That's what you'll do. That is what you'll do. That's what you're going to do, right? You'll see this. This is the grift that's coming from your own party. This is the cult, right? This is the cult, especially when you get these like glazing intro. Again, become a Republican living legend. Become a Republican living legend? Are you all that so gullible that you'll believe that shit? Really? Really? Oh, Miguel. You care? Really? Really, Miguel? You care about protecting women? Really? Correct. No men and women's sports. We are going to protect women. Is that how you really feel? You're going to protect women? I highly doubt that. You don't care about women. You don't. So do you want to become a Republican living legend? Go ahead, MAGA, please. Please fill out that form. Please select both boxes so you can get off on your hatred towards people, in particular brown-skinned people, in particular the LGBTQI community. Go ahead. Go ahead. And that $100 donation that you make, actually, you know what? Crank it up. This is what I would suggest. All you free market guys who apparently have plenty of money to pay for your health insurance, go for it. So what I would suggest is that you choose one of the, truly, if you really, really want to be a living legend, if you really, really, really want to be a living legend, then I would suggest a $3,300 donation, and I would suggest making it monthly. And I would totally check this box that you don't want Ilhan Omar in Congress anymore, and I would totally check that box because you don't want men and women sports. If you truly stand for what you stand for, then you should pony up. You got plenty of money. You can afford to pay for healthcare. Free market, right? Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, it's fine. Nothing to see here, though. But you know what? And while you're at it, in February, you can plan on going to the Kennedy Center, the Trump Kennedy Center, for an evening of book burning. That'd be cool, right? Nothing to see here. Okay, cool. Good to know. All right. Now, I want to shift gears a little bit to the state of Colorado. Because as we've heard, because the Republican Party does not care about law and order, because the Republican Party does not care about political violence, because they are the perpetrators of it. Right? You get people that are running for office in the state of Colorado who want to say things like this guy. And he's dangerous. I'm going to play this sound for you because I think it's necessary. But this gentleman is dangerous. Here you go.
Governor says the current governor should be executed, hanged,
nice,
along with Colorado's Attorney General and Secretary of State, hanged for treason.
Lovely.
MAGA podcaster Joe Altman says all three state leaders.
Did you hear that? He's a MAGA podcaster. Okay. Just want to make sure you heard that, okay, MAGA? That he's one of yours. He's a MAGA podcaster.
Leaders who are Jewish are part of a quote-unquote synagogue of Satan Jews and should be executed.
Wow.
I think Jared Polis should be hung. I think Jenna Griswold should be hung. I think Phil Weiser should be hung. I think they should hang by their neck until dead.
Wow.
Altman says his top priority if he's elected governor would be freeing Tina Peters, who's serving prison time for tampering with voting systems in search of election rigging, which Altman claims has fixed every election from the governor's race to recent school board races in Douglas County, where he lives. Altman has suggested that President Trump should institute military tribunals and have tens of thousands of Americans executed.
Wow.
Altman recently said, quote, I think violence is probably the only solution at this point. Despite Altman's years' worth of calls for executions, he has maintained a prominent role in Colorado Republican politics, speaking at official party events, endorsing candidates, and hosting fundraisers at his chain of gun shops.
Well, interesting. But the left is the promoters of political violence, right? Yeah. But the left are the violent ones, right? You want to find me a left-leaning podcaster, some Antifa member who has a podcast who's calling for things like that? But that's not exactly. That's not disturbing at all, though, right? Some of you cheering it on. Okay. So to make sure, I just wanted to make sure I caught that correctly. You love these. You guys are you don't even know, Mike. You don't know shit, Mike. I'm gonna embarrass you publicly for just a second. Publicly, I'm gonna embarrass you, but you won't come up. Okay. All right. Sorry, I got a little drama that I'm dealing with. It's fine, though. Okay. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about my bitch boy. Because bitch boy is under a lot of heat. Oh, Mike. Mike, are you there? Mike. Oh, Mike.
What?
Mike. Why would you make a comment like that is so easily debunked?
And so the Russians have to have a ceasefire. Instead, the Russians.
Mike, turn the TV down. Turn the TV down.
Got on box, baby.
Turn the TV down. turn the TV down.
It's down.
Okay. So do you care about fraud and corruption, Mike?
Of course I do. And I think Minnesota is...
Wait. If you care about fraud and corruption, are you okay with the president pardoning people who've committed fraud?
Drunk or whatever, morning beer or whatever.
Are you okay with that? That's a question I'm asking you, Mike. Okay?
No.
Are you?
I'm not okay with no.
Well, but your president has been pardoning people who've been committing fraud.
Okay, now who did he pardon?
I can give you a list here. Hang on a second. I'm going to read you the list. Trevor Milton, securities and wire fraud, $667 million that he defrauded people. The president pardoned him, which means his penalty goes away. That's one. Here's another one. Ross Ulbricht. Well, hold on. Ross Ulbricht. Silk Road, by the way, $184 million in restitution was erased because the president pardoned him. The Chrisley family, Julie and Todd Chrisley, tax fraud, bank fraud, ripped off investors, $22 million in their restitution was erased. Jason Galanis, $84 million fraud scheme. His restitution was erased. There are numerous examples, Mike. Numerous examples of people convicted for fraud, in many cases sent to jail, and the president pardoned them.
Well, you know what, sir? That's pretty sad. And I can't, I can't say you're not being honest, but I believe you.
Okay, so then why would you be making comments about the Triple K and bullshit like that? If you want to have an intelligent conversation, Mike, be one of the few people that can truly have one. Be one of the few people that can truly have one.
Whoa. Just listen to me. Back during the Civil War, when the Civil War was ended, right?
I'm asking you to address the comment that you made. Okay? You don't understand history. Mike, you don't understand history. You just don't.
Yeah, no,
you don't understand history.
I'm a history.
No, you're not.
No,
you're not.
I don't. No, you don't. Don't ever tell me that because I know history.
No, you don't. So tell me what's the party switch then? What's the Southern strategy in the party switch? What is it? Explain it.
What? No. Just listen to me. Explain
it. Explain it. What's the Southern strategy in the party switch, Mike? What is it?
I don't know. What are you telling me?
You told me. You said you know history. You said you know history. If you know history, then you would understand the party switch and the Southern strategy. If you knew history, you should easily be able to explain that. Because you made an argument about the Triple K. So if you knew ideologically, by the way, it's not from a party perspective, it's an ideology perspective. You should look up people like Strom. You should look up people like Strom. You should look up people like Strom Thurmond. Mike, do you know who Strom Thurmond was?
No, sir. Who?
I thought you said you knew history.
Well, tell me.
He was a Democrat. He was a segregationist Democrat who was a bona fide fucking racist. Who, by the way, he was part of the Southern strategy and the party shift because he did not like schools being integrated. Okay? So he became the conservative movement is what we see now. So by the way, who are flying Confederate flags today? Are they Democrats or are they Republicans?
Are you talking about like the Mississippi burning? Is that what you're getting at?
I'm asking you a question. Who flies the Republican? Who flies the Confederate flag today, Mike?
Well, my stepmother was because she's from the South. So,
okay, but is she a Republican voter?
Eventually she became.
She is. Okay. So do you know who David Duke is?
Yeah, I do. Of course.
Who's David Duke?
The head of the KKK.
Right, the Triple K. And who did he endorse?
Well, he said Donald Trump, but I don't know if that was all true.
Right. Okay. So did you ever hear him endorse a Democrat?
Can I ask you a question?
Answer my question first. Answer my question first. Answer my question first. Did you ever hear him endorse a Democrat?
No, sir.
Where are the white supremacist group? Where are the white supremacy groups, and what party do they live in these days? The Republican Party, the Democratic Party? Patriot Front, Oath Keepers.
I think Democrat uses I believe
that's
Democrats.
That's not the question I asked, Mike. That's not the question I asked you. That's not the question I asked you. Where do these groups live? Do they live within Democratic circles, or do they live within Republican circles?
It all depends on the area you live in, I believe.
Does it? Really?
I believe so.
You think the Proud Boy? You think the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers are Democrats?
I really don't have an answer for that, sir.
Yes, you do. You have an answer. You just don't want to answer it.
Okay, what's the answer you want me to tell you?
I want you to answer honestly. That's what I want. Just answer honestly. That's it.
Going to.
Okay, answer honestly.
Okay. Ask me that question one more time.
In what circles do the white supremacist groups that are in our country now swim in? Do they the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, the One Percenters, the Patriot Front, those groups, are they affiliated with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party?
I would say more Republican.
Exactly. So then if we were to make the claims about white supremacy and racism existing, it's predominantly in what party then, Mike?
I hate to say this, you're going to get mad at me, but I would say more Democrat than I would say Republican.
Because you want to say that, Mike. You want to say that. You can't have it both ways. You can't. Hold on. I just asked you the question. I just asked you the question about these white supremacist groups. Okay. And then you admitted honestly that they were more affiliated with the Republican Party. So then how then, when I ask you the next question, that you suddenly think it's Democrats? Explain that.
Well, I really don't have an answer for you on that one, buddy.
Because
you don't want
to admit it.
No, it's not that I don't want to admit it. It's because that's the way I have friends. I'm in the militia, and I just believe in. I don't know. You got me, okay? You're very truthful. You have very honest, and maybe you woke me up a little bit. Okay, maybe I need. Maybe I need to check myself once in a while. You know what I'm saying? Instead of being
maybe instead of making comments in the comment section of a live, making claims about the origin of the Triple K, well, especially when you say you know history. Now, I will give you that the origins of the Triple K existed in the Democratic Party, but the Democrats were conservative then. That has shifted now. All you got to do is look at a map. So if you truly, I appreciate you being sincere. Hold on. I appreciate you being truly sincere, somewhat sincere, and at least a little bit honest. But we can't just let that conversation just sit out there and you make a comment about this, right?
I don't want to, because you're wrong. You can like straighten my shit out. I'm good. I'm good with that. I like watching. Matter of fact, I don't. I make comments once in a while. You get pissed off at me, but you know what? You do bring up some things that are real, and a lot of people don't want to be real. Is that true?
The problem is, Mike. This is my opinion. Okay, the problem is that there are a lot of people who don't want to associate themselves. Well, many people do, but a lot of people don't want to associate themselves with racists, with bigots, and with transphobes. So they will try to come up with excuses, right? So they'll try to come up with excuses. You gave one of those excuses. You want to say, "Oh well, the Democrats founded the Triple K." If you were a history buff, you would say, "Yeah." Because hold on, I even gave you that acknowledgement that yes, But at the time, Democrats were conservatives. They became what's referred to as Dixiecrats. Dixiecrats then became today's conservative Republican Party. All you got to do is look at an electoral map, right? The South used to be won by Democrats. The South is no longer won by Democrats. It's the conservatives.
But what year did they change? I mean, was it the 60s? The Democrats changed?
Yeah, the party switch happened. The ideological party switch happened right after well, we know we can draw a line in the sand. It was the early 60s, 1963, 1964, right after the Civil Rights Act was signed into law. Now think about that for a second. Think about that. So the Civil Rights Act, which gave protections in our system for black people in particular. So then that became really controversial for some racist conservatives who are identified as Dixiecrats. They left the party and they left the party and became conservatives, which are the Republicans of today.
All right. I'm gonna tell you, I lived in the city of Detroit, and back in the 60s, I remember there was a white line going across the main road called Grand River. And that was back in the day of the riots. And my grandfather was a captain of the Detroit Fire Department. And there was a lot of shit going on. I'm sorry to swear, but a lot of things going on.
You can swear. You can swear. It's all right.
Yeah. And I remember when I had 1970, when they bust all they call it busing back then, and they brought in all the colors into our schools.
I'm sorry, what did you say? Okay, I'm good now. Just when you think you're maybe making a little bit of progress, just when you think you're maybe making a little bit of progress, you do that shit. But nothing to see here, right? Nothing to see here. Anyway.
Well, my neck and shoulder hurt.
I love you. I love you, Poochie. Are you there? Hello? Hello?
I'm afraid.
Okay, I guess not. I don't want to overhear your personal conversation, but sorry. That was crazy. Leo, good morning. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
I love what you're doing here, explaining everything. And I know you're trying as hard as you can, but the harder you try, it seems like the more they rebel against anything that's truthful or actual in our history. I'm an independent now. I've been a Democrat my whole life. I'm 57. I went in the service at 17. And I went in the service to go to other countries, to meet other people in other cultures, to eat their food because it's delicious, and to learn from them, because I totally think that the more diverse any population is, you've got ideas and histories from thousands of years that can be implemented in your society instead of just one. And that's in any case. If you just have one population, they're going to have one mind. You have 1,000 different people, you're going to have all of that knowledge combined and shared. And I don't even understand why racism exists, because I've never felt that way. I don't even understand that concept.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you don't understand it, but it's here. I mean, our country was built on it. I always say a country that was built by people who look like me, to benefit people who look like me, to protect people who look like me.
No, I mean, I understand how it happened. I just, in my own self, I don't understand why somebody would want to be that hateful, because it hurts you too. That kind of hate causes internal stress and actual physical body reactions that make you sick. So
correct.
I just don't understand. I don't understand why somebody would choose that unless they were super insecure. But I don't understand why white men, not you, but the ones that are like this are so insecure. And I don't understand, since they've always had everything, why they don't want anybody else to have an opportunity. I mean, you've got to be pretty fragile to be like that. So I don't know. To me, it's almost like a mental illness.
It's hatred. Yeah. But thanks for jumping in today, Leo. I appreciate you being here. And thank you for your service. I appreciate you very much. Have a good day.
Thank
Be safe
you.
out there. You got it. You can call it, we'll call it what it is. It's just racism and bigotry. Simple. Nexus, are you there? Nexus? I guess not. Nexus, are you there?
I did not mean to come up.
Okay, no problem. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. It's, you always hope, right? You always hope there's something. I thought maybe we were making some progress, but then just the blatant racism. If you want to look up the Southern strategy, go ahead. I'm pretty well read about this. It's really not that complicated to figure out. It's really not that complicated. The reason conservatives don't want to accept it as the truth is because they don't want to be connected to blatant fucking racism. Period. They just don't. They just don't want to be connected to it. So it's easy to say, oh, well, you guys, Democrats, triple K, blah. Once again, you should do a little bit of research to determine where the America First ideology comes from. In fact, it was part of the Triple K's platform. You probably don't want to connect yourself with that now either, do you? It's not that hard. It's really not that hard. It shouldn't be that complicated if you're just willing to unpack it a little bit. That's it. Just unpack it a tiny bit. Just a little bit, right? Because if you're really, otherwise you're going to be going to the all-white production of Hamilton or an evening of book burning or gun show and ketchup testing. Screening The Birth of a Nation, a medley of minstrel shows, QAnon Story Hour, the J6 Choir, the Capitol Steps Riders, right? Rioters, exactly. That's the problem. We say this in jest, but is it really satirical? Likely not. Likely not. I don't know. Seems weird. I might want to unpack it. Brokeback Bob, how are you today?
No, I am not. No, I am not dressing up like a cat today. I do not feel like a cat. But meow. Go.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. I didn't make the calendar. That's on me. It's my bad. I'm sorry about that. I should have done that. Dude, that was a grown man. Hello, Stacy. How are you?
Great. How are you this morning?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
I wanted to talk briefly about, I over the holiday, I started binge watching this show about people that get catfish and romance scams. And just watching the show, it's crazy to watch because it's like, how can people ignore so many red flags? But then as I was watching it, I was thinking, the people are so delusional in these examples that even when they're presented with hard facts, like, okay, here's a picture of this person that you're speaking to in Nigeria that is definitely not Johnny Depp. Like, they can't break these people out of this cycle. And I'm just thinking, like, this is exactly what's going on with MAGA. Like, it's the same thing. It's just a different romance, and it's heartbreaking because I am optimistic for the future. I'm not a doom and gloom kind of person, and I'm definitely out there doing something. But the psychology behind what's going on, it's so terrifying to think that there's just this kind of almost like mass hysteria that we're dealing with, and that you don't have to actually deliver anything to some of these people other than just feeding into their hopes and dreams and racism and all this other crazy stuff. You can just tell them whatever they want to hear and they'll be loyal to you. They'll bankrupt themselves over you. It's just crushing. So
yeah, and we see it all too much. But thanks for jumping in, Stacey. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Thanks for being here. See
Thank
later.
you.
Have a good day. Yep.
You too.
Listen, we can dissect this shit all the time. I mean, Mike was an example of what it is that we talk about all the time. People who don't think Charlie Kirk or Donald Trump or Stephen Miller or others in today's cabinet or prominent voices on the right, people that don't think they're racist means that they're racist themselves. You cannot have an objective conversation about Donald Trump and not understandably and objectively say that man is a bona fide fucking racist. Same thing with Charlie Kirk. Same thing with Stephen Miller. Same thing with Kristi Noem. Same thing with Tom Homan. You cannot sit there and say objectively that they're not racists. Only a racist would say that. Only a person who is hateful towards the LGBTQIA community would say things other than the obvious. You cannot be objective about it. You can't. It's impossible. You can't sit there and defend things that the piece of shit human being Charlie Kirk was, claiming that the things that he said aren't racist. You don't think comments about a black pilot isn't racist? Or black women? You don't think those things aren't racist? Of course you wouldn't. Because guess what? You're a racist too. Sorry to say. That's just how it works. CYB, how are you today? Hello.
Hello.
CYB. Hi there.
Yeah, I accidentally got up.
Okay, no problem. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. Carter, how are you today? Carter, are you there? Carter, are you there? I guess not. I don't like to, it's never the intention to have these conversations go in that particular direction, but I didn't take us there. We're just going to call it out. We're just going to call it out. We're going to call out what we see. And sadly, right? Sadly, we have elected members in our government who are bona fide white Christian nationalist racists. They just are. And we have a Congress now that is so feckless and cowardice that are unwilling to stand up to this shit because they like it. They like it. They like it. They don't care. They don't care that their perception is that they're a bunch of Christian nationalists. Many of them are. Many of them are proud of it. Project 2025, case in point. The entire thing is a Christian white nationalist fucking wet dream. That is their corn. They'll like sit around, they'll play this shit. Oh, Project 2025. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. Give me more. Spank daddy with it. That's how they feel about it. You can't be objective. There's no possible way you can look at the modern day Republican Party and not call it racist. It's fueled with it. It's fueled with white supremacy and bigotry. None of us want to talk about race every single day. I'm willing to because it's necessary, right? Just the fucking the outward hatred towards marginalized group, and yet Grindr crashes every time Turning Point gets together, or the diminishing of individuals, or the claims that we're protecting children. And people like Robert Morris, by the way, who was one of Donald Trump's spiritual advisor, gets popped with having inappropriate relations with a 12-year-old girl. So there's that. But again, nothing to see here. Yeah, it's fine. Case in point, In February of 2017, in an email to former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, Jeffrey Epstein wrote of Donald Trump, "I have met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump, not one decent cell in his body." So yes, he's dangerous. Imagine when your former BFF, who's one of the most notorious predators in the world, calls you one of the worst people ever. But again, nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. And just as a reminder, you know, Canada elects like a PhD, a prime minister with a PhD in economics from Oxford. Okay? Canada, Mark Carney, a PhD from Oxford in economics. Claudia Sheinbaum, president of Mexico. What's her cred? PhD in energy and engineering. That's our neighbor to the north and our neighbor to the south. And our country elects a twice impeached, 4-time indicted, sexually abusing fraudster, convicted felon, name on a list predator. That's fine. Because of people like Mike. Because of people like that. Because of people that are so fueled by their hatred. So fueled by it. You literally will sit there and complain about everything that happened during the Biden administration, and you talk about it in terms of fraud, you talk about it in terms of his mental capacity, and yet every single day you show us that you don't give a fuck about any of that stuff, because there's been no more corrupt person to ever serve in the presidency than our current president. Period. That's how it works. You've created this. You get off on this shit. We think it's a joke. You think, yeah, I'd love to see an all-white production of Hamilton or an evening of book burning. Where the fuck do I sign up? Yeah, where's my Doge check? Great point. I touched on this a little bit yesterday. Doge cost us money. People lost their job. Thousands of federal employees lost their job. We lose diplomatic prominence nationally, and it cost us money. But again, nothing to see here. Okay, that's fine. So let's talk about my little bitch boy. That'd be Mike Johnson. This Congress will go down historically as one of the least effective in history. For the second time, this is from Reuters, for the second time in a decade, the GOP holds total sway over Washington, controlling both chambers of Congress and the White House. But as 2025 ends, the majority party has little to show for its meager efforts at legislating. The data shows that Congress is getting worse and worse at its main job, which is passing laws. Despite Republican majorities in the House and Senate, only 61 bills have passed both chambers this year, according to Congress.gov. 61. Of those, 22 were disapproval resolutions overturning Biden administration rules and regulations. 2 others were bills renaming federal buildings, a post office in Oklahoma, and a New Jersey outpatient clinic run by U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. 15 of those bills were resolutions disapproving of Biden administration rules, and 3 named federal buildings. By the end of the 118th Congress, about a year later, if the GOP were to lose the House next November, the odds of bills reaching Trump's desk further dwindle even further. So not only are you the most ineffective, not only is your party loaded with a bunch of Christian nationalists, white supremacists, racists, yeah, I'll say it, you can't even pass legislation when you have the majority. You can't. You have the least effective Congress in history. The only one that was potentially, the last Congress was bad. The only one that's worse is this one. I've got a little bit more data on that for you. Okay. Productivity, I guess, can be determined in a couple of different ways, but let's look at the numbers. All right. According to legislative data, this is between the 118th Congress, 2023 to 2025, okay, the one that is just ending. According to legislative data and news reporting, the 118th Congress passed the fewest bills compared to historical norms. One widely reported figure, again, this is reported on by ABC, is that it passed only 34 bills in a year, the lowest numbers in nearly a century. PolitiFact analysis of quorum legislative data found that through a comparable point in the session, the 118th Congress had enacted far fewer laws, 42, than any Congress going back to at least the earliest 20th century. A Wikipedia summary of the 118 sessions enacted notes says it's been called one of the least productive Congresses in modern American history. What are you there to do? What are you there to do? Aren't you there? Congress's job is to pass laws. You hold the House, you hold the Senate, you hold the White House, and you hold the Supreme Court. And you're still one of the least effective Congresses in history. Period. That's it. Fronted by the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. I've got a little montage for you of my little bitch boy. All the times that he has said, I don't know, or I don't have any information about that. I don't know what you're talking about. That's news to me. Here's the compilation for you. The first one is meme coins.
I don't know. I can just tell you that, I mean, President Trump has had nothing to hide. He's very upfront about it. I've been a little busy on reconciliation.
This is the Qatar jet.
I'm not following all the twists and turns of the Qatar jet. I've certainly heard about it. Well, look, I don't know.
This is the crypto donor dinner where people had to pay in to get a seat at the table. And yet, because of the way that the crypto industry is not regulated, we have no fucking idea who these people are.
Know anything about the dinner? I was a little busy this past week, as you know, getting the reconciliation package over the line, and so I'm not going to comment on something I haven't even heard about. I'm not sure who was there or what the purpose was, but
this is on the Jeffrey files back in July.
Cash said in the vignette earlier, he's FBI. That's not my lane. I don't know. Well,
this is our Argentinian beef imports.
We're doing a lot of work. We had some discussion on that yesterday, and I don't know the latest developments, but I can tell you there have been some over the last 24 hours here. But
this is furloughed worker back pay back in October.
There is new legal analysis. I don't know the details. I just saw a headline this morning. I'm not read in on it, and I haven't spoken to the White House about it. I don't know of any.
This is the GOP pro H-Man group chat back in October, okay?
These people are. I never heard of them. Somebody posted a photo of me standing next to these guys. We're in tuxedos. Obviously, I think it was at the inauguration, and people were just coming up and asking for selfies with 1,000 of them. I don't know. I've never heard of that person in my life.
This is ICE detaining U.S. citizens and children back in October.
I don't know what you're talking about with the children. Okay, I haven't seen that, so I'm not going to comment on it. But I will tell you that ICE is doing the job that the American people demanded that they do.
This is Trump purges senior ICE staff back in October.
I don't know any of the details of that yet. I just heard about that literally. I was walking in, so I'm not going to comment on it until I find out the details. I know some of these things get misportrayed. Terrible. That's first.
This is pardon.
I've heard of that.
This is pardoned J6er threatening the life. This is a person who was pardoned, who was a J6 insurrectionist traitor who threatened Hakeem Jeffrey's life.
Anything about it? But anybody who threatens to kill any political official, we denounce it absolutely. I can't.
This is the priest that was being pepper sprayed by a member of ICE outside a facility in Chicago.
Comment on any of those instances. I haven't seen or heard any of those videos, so I'm not going to comment about it. But I would say, hold on, wait a minute. Let me answer you. Hold on. Thank you. You asked the question. I haven't seen.
This is on layoffs in the Department of Education, in particular special education programs.
Seen the specifics of that, and I don't know. I do know that each of the cabinet secretaries were asked to assist OMB.
This is the DOJ payoff. Donald Trump suing his own Department of Justice to try to recoup money that he said that he was harmed. Okay.
I'm not trying to dodge the question. I haven't had time to get the details.
Right.
Okay, that's still on my list, things to do list. Yesterday was almost literally a 21-hour workday.
Oh,
I don't know.
This is pardoned crypto billionaire CZ, right? This is when Trump pardoned CZ from Binance. Okay.
Anything about that? I didn't see the interview. You have to ask the president about that. I'm not sure.
This is the double tap boat strike. Okay.
I have been listening. Again, I was pretty busy yesterday. Didn't follow a lot of the news, but I caught up a little bit early this morning.
I don't know anything. This is the pardoning of the drug traffickers of Honduran president.
Think about that, President.
I don't know. I don't have an opinion on it. I haven't read into it.
What the fuck is he doing then? All things that are important. So listen, I'm just a lowly middle class dude from Vermont who does TikToks, who runs a couple of businesses, who does his best to try to speak the truth. I'm not in Congress. I know more about this shit than you do, bitch boy. You little bitch. So what the fuck do you know? You talk about these 21-hour days you have, yet the Congress, of which you are the Speaker of the House, is the least effective in modern political history. So what are you doing? Are you checking the rule book in your covenant marriage? Are you monitoring your son's corn intake? Well, we know you're going to Turning Point events. If you don't have time to do all these things, then I would like to think that maybe you were doing your job as the leader of the Republicans and the Speaker of the House. You didn't know anything about this? You didn't know anything about that? What do you know? Mike, you're part of the notification of things like boat strikes. And you want to say that you don't know anything about it? The Jeffrey files, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You've got time to go and do talk shows with your wife. You've got time to go to Turning Point events, right? And spew your nonsense. But you don't have time to do anything else? The least effective Congress in modern political history, Mike. That is your claim to fame. You are losing members of your party. They are resigning early because of your lack of leadership. Bitch boy. He's second in line, Lisa, after the vice president. He's not third in line. He's second in line. That guy. Remember what Kevin McCarthy said. He said when he was the speaker, he would look out over the House chamber. He would look at the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party looked like America. Excuse me, looked like America. He looked at the Republican Party, and he said it looked like the most exclusive country club you could ever see. Right? Mike Johnson, bitch boy. Actually, we get a shirt. Don't be a bitch boy. Seven Mountains mandate, Mike. His son's corn partner. Covenant marriage. Seven Mountain mandate. Bona fide Christian nationalist. Bona fide. No doubt about it. And he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing? He wasn't aware of this, wasn't aware of that. Now, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, he knows. He's just lying. He's just lying. Don't forget, he intentionally delayed Rep. Grijalva's swearing in to try as best he could to protect the president. Mike Johnson is another one of these individuals that is protecting predators. Period. Full stop. Full stop. You don't know anything about any of these things, Mike? Then what the fuck do you know about? What do you know about? Do you know where we can get tickets to the all-white production of Hamilton? Do you know where we can get the Hillary emails, a dramatic reading? Do you know where we can get that one? Or MAGA Fear Kabuki Theater? Straight Pride featuring the Village People? I'm sure you know all about all that, right? Easy. Easy. Oh, is Sticks all upset? Are you upset? Are you triggered, friend? Are you triggered? Oh, I'm so sorry. So sorry. That's unfortunate for you. Exactly. Oh no, colors. Oh no. Oh no. Colors. Ah, I'm afraid of color. So back to this list. How effectiveness is measured, okay? The most common straightforward measurement of effectiveness would be how many proposed laws actually become law. On this basic metric, recent sessions, especially the 118th, are historically low compared to past Congresses. Large numbers of bills may be introduced, but only a very small fraction become law, especially when partisan gridlock prevents consensus. You are the majority. You are the majority. If your policies were even popular within your own party, you might have had success. But nope, you're not legislating. Nope. When compared to past sessions going back to the early 20th century, the recent Congress has enacted significantly fewer laws. Partisan polarization, sure. Divided government, and it's not divided. It's not divided. And here's the thing about it, is what you're going to see when the Democrats retake the House, and by the way, is my website down? Which website? Yeah, I don't think so. What you're going to see when Democrats retake the House, and they will, and I'm not ruling the Senate out just yet, you will see legislation that's introduced to benefit the American people. Now, I know people want to go after, I don't want to go through the exercise of impeachment. I really don't. I don't think you're going to get enough people in the Senate to support it. What I want are investigations. I want members of this cabinet dragged in front of every fucking committee there is and demand they answer questions. Hold them in contempt. Website is down. Oh, okay. Our website is down apparently. Sorry about that, friends. So yes, it is down. We'll try to figure out why. I don't really know. That's what I want to see. Sam's looking into it. I don't know what the reason is. I will try to find that out for you, friends. So my bad on that. Anyway, I don't want to see impeachment. I want every member of the cabinet investigated. I want them dragged mercilessly. I want them exposed. I want them shown how pitiful they are. I want their crimes exposed. That's what I want. So here's a prediction for you. Okay, here's a prediction. It is my belief that sometime within the next few months, you will start to hear of resignations from members of the cabinet. And with those resignations will come preemptive pardons. Because what Pam Bondi has done is criminal. She broke the law by not releasing everything connected to the Jeffrey files based on the Epstein Transparency Act, which was signed into law in November, mandate the release of all documents on the 19th of December. You don't just find 1 million documents. It is corruption. It is a cover-up. It is a massive scandal. I don't want us to waste time going through impeachment. I want them dragged in front of Congress and exposed for who they are. That's my belief. That's what I want to see. Hi, Drew. How are you?
Hey, Steve. How you doing, buddy?
I'm fine, man. What's going on?
Not too much, man, but I want to say I think you're being a little hard on Mike. Do you not remember the original words of the Gettysburg Address? It was 7 years ago. Something happened.
Our fathers brought forth this nation. Our fathers
I was too busy to pay attention to what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Something happened. I was too busy being president to figure it. You remember all those words, bud, right?
I remember a lot of it, sadly. It's weird.
Yeah.
Head full, like I've always said, I have a head full of use. I'm good for trivia. I'm really good on trivia night. It's not going to get me far, but there you go.
But I tend to agree with you when you say the whole impeachment thing. I mean, ideally, in a real world, if we were living in like a intelligent world, that's what should happen, and everyone should agree on it. But that's not going to happen. I tend to agree with you. Tons of investigations, but I also want to see, when Democrats do eventually take over, I want to see bills being introduced every day. I want to see them just flooding, and just putting it out there saying, hey, this is what we want to do. This is how it'll help you. This is what would be better than what we have. And if they get shot down, bring that up too. Say, hey, we had this bill. It would really help with our healthcare prices. It would help with this. It would help with that. And it got shot down. I want to see that too. I don't want to just see a litany, because I think that was kind of the messaging. It needed to happen during the first administration, But I think some of the messaging was that was all that was being done. And it was like, there was constantly videos of this person being dragged in front of Congress and this person, which needs to happen. But I also need to see a balance of them saying, okay, we need that. That's important. We're going to do that. But also, we're here to help you too. So I want to see that balance.
Same here.
That needs to happen. Because if there's one good thing we can take out of this administration, and hopefully it can be good down the road, is we're seeing where the problems in our system are. We're seeing what the cracks in our system are, and maybe we can fix those.
I agree. As always, I appreciate you jumping in today, friend. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Happy New Year to you, buddy.
You too, pal. See you later. Take care. He's right. Like, I want to see legislation. I want people to go on the record saying we're going to vote against healthcare reform or vote against overturning Citizens United. All those kinds of things. That's what I want to see. That show what legislation looks like. Put the Republicans on blast to vote against it. Make sure all votes are recorded. Make sure they're all public. I would love to go to hand votes. Expose them all. This is how bad things are for the administration because there's some new reporting. What's his name? Harry Enton. He's great. Here's some sound for you, and I'll be right back.
2025 was not exactly the best year for the president of the United States. He started off in pretty gosh darn good territory, right? Trump's net approval rating in January, he was 6 points above water, pretty much above where he was during his entire first term in office. But look what happens come December. 12 points underwater, way, way down there. That is an 18-point decline during the course of the year. Now, what has driven Donald Trump's decline in his net approval rating? Well, it's independents. That is the name of the game, baby. Look, in January, Donald Trump's net approval rating among independents was about even, -1 point. Not too hot to trot, but not too bad either. Now, whoosh, we're talking about 43 points underwater come December. That is a decline of 42 points on his net approval rating. Donald Trump is hanging out with Jacques Cousteau. That is how far underwater Donald Trump is with independents at this point. Now, what issues are driving this decline in Trump's approval rating, his net approval rating? Well, let's look at two of the key issues, right? The economy, the reason that Donald Trump was elected to a second term back in January, he was in pretty good shape at +9 points on the net approval rating. But look, come December, 16 points underwater. That is a decline, doing the math quickly here, of 25 points for Donald Trump on the key issue of the day, the economy, the reason he got a second term. And then, of course, immigration, which Donald Trump has really focused in on during his second term in office, something he has been focusing on since he first ran for the presidency all the way back in 2015. Well, in January, he was 9 points above water on the issue. Now he's 6 points below water on the issue. So on the key issues of the economy, inflation, going in the wrong direction for Donald Trump.
Again, he ran on those things. He ran on the economy. He ran on immigration. He's upside down, 43-point drop with independents. That's game over. That is game over. Even if he gains support between now and election day, by 10 points, he's still 33 points underwater. By 20 points, he's still 23 points underwater. It's game over. So they know it, which is why they're trying their best to avoid these conversations in particular, or especially the Republicans going back to their districts to go to town halls. But more importantly, those members that are considering resigning early. They don't want to face the absolute destruction that they're going to get in the polling. I would not be surprised, to be perfectly honest, if the reporting is true that as many as 20 to 25 Republicans are considering leaving the post, leaving their seat, giving up their position in Congress before the midterms. I would not be surprised if you didn't see Democrats become the majority. I wouldn't be surprised. Somebody asked me the question, do I think we can take back the Senate? The Senate's a lot tougher, but just because of how horrible the perception is of today's Republican Party, nothing would surprise me. I think Maine's in play. I think North Carolina's in play. I think Ohio's in play. And I think Texas is in play too. And now, who knows about Wyoming, right? Who knows? Now, Liz Cheney is a conservative, right? She was really popular. She had a popular brand in that state. Does she consider running? Does she consider running for that seat and running as an independent? I don't know. Or even as a Republican, but be a thorn in the side for the administration? Talk about poetic justice. Georgia, I think Georgia's safe. I think John Ossoff's pretty popular down there. I don't worry about that seat as much, considering who the candidates are. People are even talking about Florida. I don't know. So again, you think your vote doesn't matter? Don't forget, you win the Senate. This is my wish. All right? Sit down, friends. This is my wish. I have never liked the filibuster. I've always hated it. I don't like what it's become. I like the idea of the original intention where you would literally have to stand and filibuster. Now it's just become this political football. I don't like it. I would be willing to give it up because of the things that we could get. I would be willing to give it up to say it's now a simple majority. You introduce legislation to expand the Supreme Court. You introduce legislation to make, if Puerto Rico wants to, ask them, but to make D.C. a state. Things like that. More judgeships. Overturning Citizens United. Passing responsible firearm legislation. I would be all over it if they were to do it. That takes courage. Does it, though? I guess. Codify Roe into law. To expand the fucking court. 13 Supreme Court justices and find the most liberal judges you could possibly find anywhere. Problem is, Republicans are afraid of that, which is exactly why. Second Amendment isn't debatable? Sure it is. It's why it's an amendment. Republicans are afraid of the Democrats doing just that, which is why they will cheat. I would overturn, there were so many things structurally that I would do. So many things. It's going to take getting rid of the filibuster. It's going to take it. And will it happen? I don't know. Do I want it to happen? Absolutely. The fairness doctrine? Absolutely. And I think Drew pointed this out, and I was talking about this before. One thing that this administration has done, this administration and version 1, has exposed a lot of cracks in our system. A lot of them. Right? About how interpretation of a lower court's ruling. Can a lower court judge impose an injunction nationwide? All these things that have been exposed. Now, I would say, moving forward, I don't like the way in which they were exposed, but I'm kind of glad they were, because it can show us what we can do to fix things and how we can protect institutions that we perhaps took for granted, right? Like the FCC, for example, changing the way in which we approach monopolies, allowing the FCC to remain independent, not like they've become, right? Again, Citizens United, getting money out of politics. I would outlaw lobbying. I would go so far as to say that if you were a lobbyist, you can't serve in Congress. And if you are in Congress, you can't become a lobbyist. I would go to that extreme. You want to if everybody's focus is getting money out of politics, then let's get money the fuck out of politics. It shouldn't be considered courageous. It should just be the right thing to do. I would absolutely introduce legislation about changing the language in the Second Amendment to make it more modernized. I'm not about banning firearms. I am pro addressing the number one cause of death for children in our country, which are firearms. Is that controversial? Is that so fucking radical? I would introduce legislation where we are overfunding public education, whatever that looks like. Tax the fucking churches, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I would absolutely introduce legislation that white tea supremacy groups, Christian nationalist groups, identify them all. The Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, 1%er, Patriot Front are all domestic terrorist organizations. Period. Disband them, arrest their leaders. Seriously. The left should take a page out of the right's playbook. Not the authoritarian side, not the racist side, but how they use their power. Right? How they use their power. They used it in many cases indiscriminately. I would say use the same power, but focus on things that will help people. Right? Help people. I would immediately talk about addressing the minimum wage, raising the federal minimum wage to $20, whatever that number is, and let them use their well, if you raise the federal minimum wage to $20, businesses are going to leave. Then let them fucking leave. Let them fucking go. They're not going to go anywhere. They're not. They're not going to go anywhere. You want to fix shit, then fix shit. Be courageous and fix it. Mom and pop, great. See, this is what I'm talking about. You just shut down every small business owner, mom and pop shop. No, you're wrong about that. Well, we know that you're wrong about that because of your profile. Anybody who brags about this profile, unapologetically white, you've got a lot of explaining to do. So you just appreciate what they said recently about what J.D. Vance said recently, that you don't have to apologize for being white. Well, that tells us exactly who you are, but that's fine. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. That's totally fine. Thank you for advertising it. Good morning, Joe Bess. How are you?
Good morning, Steve. As usual, your brain is just so sexy. Okay, so I wanted to say quickly that the minimum wage in California was successfully raised over the course of 5 years to make it a more livable wage in California, and everyone survived. Nonprofits survived. While that was going on, I worked very small nonprofits that aren't even designed. We survived. We turned a profit. We found a way to make it happen. You can do a livable wage. The argument against a livable wage is just sheer meanness and lack of understanding that it can be done. We did it in Cali. And if small businesses left, we don't miss them. Check out the size of how big our economy is, y'all. Like follow the lead. California did it and we can do it. You just have to be brave enough to suck the bullet and do it. And racism sucks and all you racists in here suck.
I agree. I think a lot of that's okay. A lot of states have, thank you, friend. See you later. A lot of states have raised their minimum wage this year, which is part of the lie that MAGA wants to think that more people are, that wages have increased. Well, wages have increased because a lot of states have raised their minimum wage. I'm a small business owner, right? I would love to be, I'm my own employee, right? I've got Kipper, he's security. But aside from that, it's just me. I can guarantee you that if your business cannot support paying your employees a livable wage, then there's a problem with your business model, quite frankly. So MAGA, if you care about the entrepreneurial spirit and you want to make it about America first, then you should be willing to want to have a higher minimum wage so that people can contribute more to the economy. Right? So it's not that hard. It's your own argument often works against you. If you're pro-capitalist, for capitalism to function, consumers need to make more money. Right? Seriously. I think, again, if we track the minimum wage with inflation and cost of living, I think that they estimate the minimum wage should somewhere be around $26 or $27 an hour. Okay. Okay. Anybody have a problem with that? You see what I mean? See, unapologetically white. Why are you even in here? Do you just need attention? Okay. Yeah. Immigration helps things like this. Universal health care helps things like this. It does. It helps things like this. You want consumers to have more money. Then how do you do that? There's a couple of simple things that you could do. You want to put more money in the hands of consumers? Then universal health care is one way to do it. And it's simple structurally. It really is. What are conservatives so afraid of? What are you so afraid of? We know that corporations are not job creators. As somebody who worked in corporate America for many, many years, Fortune 100 companies, they're not job creators. Mergers and acquisitions are not job creation. They are job elimination. They are job consolidation. Job creation comes from the middle class. Job creation comes from entrepreneurs. You've been told that for some reason in our system, you've got to protect the people who are ripping us off. Yeah, okay, Bullfrog. When you tell me, do me a solid, Bullfrog. When you want to have a conversation about the president pardoning people who committed fraud, then we can talk about your lies around Minnesota, right? We can talk about that. Are you that gullible that you believe that video by Nick Shirley? Are you really that gullible? Wow, man. Seriously? Whoa, bro. That's rough. I'd suggest therapy. That's just me. Okay. We conducted another strike, by the way, on another alleged schmug boat. That makes the 30th. 117 people have now lost their lives. But I'm sure that's okay too. See, two things can be true. Two things can be true. As a person on the left, we can absolutely be about going after or addressing the war on schmugs. No doubt about it. None of us support narco-terrorists. None of us support criminals. That would be your party, MAGA. And we could also abide by, I don't know, our law, international law, the Geneva Convention. We could those things can be true. Those things can work in concert. That would mean simultaneously, right? But no. That's too inconvenient because you can't defend anything that your party is doing. Instead, you double down on your lunacy. None of you gave a flying fuck about fraud. You don't care. You don't care about any of it. You don't give a shit about any of it. Instead, you see this fucking video that goes viral, this video of knocking on the back door of a daycare facility that happened to be closed at the time you were knocking on the door, where their hours were posted right on the wall. But none of you care. None of you give a shit about fraud. You don't. You do not care. Exactly, Reeb. The Minnesota stuff, 2,000 mules. It's a great comparison. You don't care. If you truly cared, then you should be like, well, fuck. The president's pardoning people who committed fraud, ripping off billions of dollars from people. Billions of dollars. But you don't care. You don't care about the war on drugs. Our president's pardoning the drug lord. You don't care about the war on drugs. He's pardoning Ross Ulbricht from the Silk Road. You don't care about any of it. It was the back door. Exactly. You don't care about Brett Favre when Brett Favre ripped off people. You don't care about any of it. If this is what you want to do, if this is your focus, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, focus on that. Go ahead. And it will just, again, prove absolutely that you guys are the biggest fucking hypocrites I have ever seen. But what about Biden? What about Tim Walz? What about him? You find crimes, arrest him. Who gives a shit? Yeah, exactly. Right. You